Hello, hello, wherever you are. I'm singing to no one who hopefully will come in soon. Hey, hey. It is, wow, lots of comments already. Hey, Beth. Hey, Cash. I have to catch up. A lot of comments. Well, hello and welcome tonight. Hi, Jenna. Sorry. Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday night, October 1st. Welcome to the month of October. Hope you had a good September. It went by pretty quickly, if I do say so myself. We always like to give it a couple minutes to get in and get settled. So let me know you're here. Say hello. Let me know where you're from and all those things. And we'll get started momentarily. In the meantime, I'm going to catch up on some of these comments that you all have already posted. Jesse Birnbaum in the house. Greetings from Costa Rica is so pretty. Hi, it's nice to see you. Cash in the house. Love Lana, Beth Carducci, Jenna. I got to catch up on this. There's so much conversation. Let's see. 10-minute warning. But I saw Cash say something. It's past tense after you stick with the yuck. Present, stuck with the yuck. Past, get it? I actually have a joke with Katie about that very thing, Cash. And I tell her that I'm going to do a competing app literally called Stuck with the Uck. That's about people that have already done Stick with the Ick. So we are of the same mind. Hi, Gail from Cape Town, South Africa. Thank you for coming. Is it morning? There, Jesse, you already said hi. We don't need to hear it again. Dave Raven in the house. Good to see you, Dave. Hey, Stacy. Great to see you all. It's good to be back. It's been just a couple weeks. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way so we can have some meaningful conversation. Actually, I'm going to put things on Do Not Disturb because if I don't, I'll be disturbed, as we say. All right, so welcome to Community Conversation. My name is Ethan Smith. I'm an advocate for the International OCD Foundation. This community conversation is intended to serve as educational content and is not intended to replace therapy, mostly because I'm not a therapist. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a local clinician. The IOCDF is not a crisis hotline. If you're ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room. You can call 911 or the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. As always, when we create a safe space and be kind and respectful to everyone, at the end of the day, we're here to support one another. And a note, this is being broadcast on all social media channels and platforms, and it's being recorded. So keep that in mind as we have meaningful conversation. And talk about personal things. If you're mean or troll, I will boot you. No tolerance. We have a no tolerance policy for, is assholery a word? I don't know. Maybe it is. All right. So welcome. How's everyone doing tonight? Or wherever you are, morning, late night. Matt Bannister. So I guess let's start with how's everyone doing? What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? I mean, obviously I'll go into stories. A lot's happened in a couple weeks, but I would like to hear from you as always and get into some meaningful conversations. I also, Beth Carducci, I want to hear if you ended up getting your driver's license renewed. Hi, Isostasia. It's good to see you. Oh, you did? Yes. Oh, you posted above. Okay, let me quickly scroll up here. Let's see here. Beth. Oh, right there. Okay, this is awesome. I did it, Ethan. Went to the DMV. I wore 3 masks. So the following week I went to the bank. Then I stuck with the yuck of being scared that someone was going to give me COVID. Heck yeah. I am beyond proud of you, Beth Carducci. I know everyone here is proud of you. I will announce it again when more people come in. That is so awesome. And I hope you're as proud of yourself as we are of you. I don't care that you wore 3 masks and you did whatever you did. You went, you followed your values, you got it done, you went to the bank. That's really, really awesome. So now you can get this business up and rolling. And I could not be more psyched for you. So congratulations, Beth. Hence stuck with the yuck. Got it. I love it. I love that you stuck with the yuck. We are proud, for sure. Everyone here is super proud of you, Beth. So hugs from love. That's awesome. So now you have to keep us updated on the business and all the things. Let's see here. Was in line for 1.5 hours outside and in and out in about 20 minutes the day. Etsy shop up and running. All right, that's freaking cool. Feel free to post a link. We got to support best new business. That's awesome. All right, well, that's very exciting. That makes me happy. That makes my heart smile. And I know everyone here is super excited for you, and goes to show that, you know. So out of curiosity, Beth, what are your thoughts after the fact? Like, how do you feel now that you did it? Katie, Beth went to the DMV and the bank, and her business is up on Etsy, and I'm so psyched. So, but I'm curious, Beth, like, obviously tons and tons of anticipatory anxiety, but how do you feel about yourself now that you've done that? What are your thoughts on the whole experience? And while we're waiting for Beth to weigh in, how is everyone else doing? Let's see. While I'm waiting for Beth to weigh in, and anybody else, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, Katie and I celebrated our 1-year wedding anniversary yesterday, which was very exciting. We didn't think we'd make it this long, but so far, so I'm kidding. But we had a really nice weekend. So we have been married now a year, and it's been pretty fantastic. I will say OCD showed up a little bit. Why? Because I'm supposed to be happy and enjoying myself. And of course, OCD decided to be like, hey, what's up? I heard you're happy and supposed to be enjoying yourself. Yeah, it really did fly by, Cash. And thank you, Dorina. Appreciate it. But with that being said, we had a great time and enjoyed celebrating and all the great things. So, but, you know, as always, you've got to expect OCD to make a little appearance now and again at those special times. Oh, heck yeah. That would be awesome. Well, we're working up to that. I think you are one step closer to going to the convention because you did that. So I think that's awesome. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Stacy. How did OCD show up for you? That's a great question, Dorina. So for me, and I won't speak for Katie, but I'm sure if Katie's still on, she can weigh in on the chat. For me, when I'm able to slow down from work and I get a little bit out of routine, it showed up for me in terms of health anxiety. I was worrying about things that I've been worrying about, and I was worrying about things that I haven't even thought about in a year or two that just popped into my head. And I went, oh my gosh, my health anxiety in general has been probably significantly spiked or triggered since I had the situation with my stomach, April, May, June. So I'm a little like gun shy about things and a little raw, if you will. So so when I'm out of routine and like, you know, have a little less to do and my mind is freer to not focus on work and other things, it tends to veer toward health anxiety, and I start worrying about things. Now, I will say this. I will say that for me, I want to clarify what it means when I say the OCD shows up. So what I mean by that is my obsessions get really loud. My compulsions increase, but not to the level of the obsession. So the O gets loud and increases a lot. The C goes up some, but doesn't interfere with my functioning. It just puts me in a mood. But I don't know that I compulse a ton, or that it interferes with my functioning. It just kind of takes some of the joy away. And therefore, I'm not sure that it is the disorder piece, right? Because it takes both to be a disorder. I'm not saying I don't have OCD. I do have OCD. I'm simply saying that in this moment, it was more obsessions and loud noise than anything else. And of course, when I listened to it and engaged in a compulsion, it got louder. And when I just was willing to go with the flow and let it all be there, it quieted down pretty quickly. And overall, I can look back at the last 4 or 5 days and say I had a great 4 or 5 days. And I had amazing quality time with Katie, and we really were able to be present, as much as we possibly could, and be there for each other and to celebrate something really beautiful. But yeah, I think like most of us, when we slow down and get out of routine, things get loud. So it seemed a little louder than it has been, but I think as life moves forward, stakes feel higher. There's more things to lose. As you know, it attacks the things that we care about most. So I think that makes sense. But that's how it showed up for me, Zarina. Gerda, I am having obsessions about pointlessly repeating actions. What if I forgot and pointlessly repeated these actions? Could you suggest some of the most effective exposures for this? Let me reread that a second. Having sessions about pointlessly repeating actions. What if I forgot? And can you give me a little bit more detail about like what kind of actions you are repeating and who's determining whether they're pointless or not? So if you could give me an example, I think that'd be really helpful, Gerda. And then I'd love to elaborate on your question. Beth wrote, but was terrified after I went because I had to take off. For some reason, I read it as take off my hands, which would be weird. Take off my mask. The DMV guy was taking his time. Did you hold your breath? Oh, taking my picture. Yeah. I wonder, I want to see your picture. Is your picture like, I really want to see your picture. I think your picture will be amazing. I'm so proud of you. So proud of you. Katie shared a little bit about her. Similar to Ethan, I was worried about stuff that isn't usually on my radar. It was time to relax, and I had been really fighting my default theme, so it felt all sorts of random stuff popped up. Yeah, that's exactly right, and I experienced very, very similar. Ethan, do you have stomach issues? I was referring to the, I mean, technically, yes, referring to the diagnosis of a mass in my stomach earlier, and just that whole experience was intense and scary. And so I'm still waiting for scans to see what things are doing. So I start to catastrophize about what may be happening. What if something was missed? All the what ifs that creep in. So yeah. Beth Carducci, yes, the mind wanders towards things you don't want to think about. That is absolutely true. But the secret, my dear friends, is blowing in the wind. But it's also being okay with that and letting it be there. And first, I personally go through the frustration of like, damn it, these thoughts are here. That's so annoying. I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z. And then I eventually just let it be there. And that's when it starts to get quieter. And thank you, Robert Spence, for the anniversary. All good. We did survive the storm. Atlanta got it pretty bad. We were fortunate in our area. We live on a river, so there was a lot of anxiety around what that was going to do. But everything was okay. Of course, for those of you that were impacted in South or North Carolina, I have friends that lost their houses in Asheville. Sending all our love, and if there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. I know it's tough times for many people in Georgia too, Augusta and things like that. So sending lots of love, and in any way we can support you, we will do our best to do that. Oh, thank you, Beth. Yeah, Katie posted an extended video of our wedding that I don't think we ever shared on social media today on her Instagram account. If you want to check it out, what it looked like. She was beautiful. I was less beautiful. But yeah, no. I'm assuming you're referring to your driver's license picture. I look like Godzilla. Now we really want to see it. It was yesterday, Deirdre. And that's true. Does anybody really have a good pick from the DMV? Probably not. I knew a couple people that had insanely good pictures, and I remember being, jealous. Dorami, and thank you for the questions, by the way. As always, if you're new here, if you're just joining us, this is an open conversation. You can ask anything. You'll get tons of support in the chat, and also I will answer any questions that you have. So please feel free to weigh in, comment, ask, and we'll do the best we can to answer questions and give support in the ways that we can. And hey, CJ, it's good to see you. So Dorami, what's the difference between health anxiety and OCD? I was reading a self-help book, and it mentioned that if one suffers from health anxiety, they should seek a doctor's treatment. It's a great question. And sometimes health anxiety can sort of be its own diagnosis, but it usually falls under the umbrella of OCD. So back in the day, they referred to it as hypochondriasis, which was sort of this fear that any symptom that may come up is something serious, or that you have an illness. And so if you have a headache, you may be afraid that you're going to have a stroke or an aneurysm or a brain tumor. If you have a fever, it may not just be a flu. It could be something way more severe, like a meningitis or something like that. I know that's how it manifested for me as I was growing up. Every little symptom was potentially something much bigger. And also it's the fear of getting diseases and disorders that you may not have any symptomatology of. It's just one day, a lot of, what if I get HIV because I touched something or sat on a toilet seat or somebody's blood got near me. What if I get Parkinson's because my hand was a little shaky at one point? It can really attack a variety of things. And so, but the treatment for health anxiety is similar to OCD, really just sitting with the discomfort and doing exposures around that. So there are some differences though. So a lot of times in OCD, health anxiety manifests in the way I just described, which is a fear of what if I get something, or I'm so afraid I'm going to end up getting cancer or MS or one of these things, but there's no facts to back it up. It is a fear, and that fear is causing you to engage in some sort of compulsion, be it a doctor's visit or some sort of other compulsion like tapping, magical thinking compulsion, something not related to health, but that your OCD deems, okay, if I wear this red shirt, I won't get this thing. So that's one variety. There's also somatic symptom disorder, and that's sort of, and this is more where I fall in nowadays, is I don't worry so much about getting things, random things. I may have a symptom of something, and then I automatically equate it to whatever the worst case scenario is. So I've talked a lot about these, in past streams. At one point, my tongue was twitching and it wouldn't stop, and I was convinced. I thought for sure like this was ALS and this was the end. A heart palpitation is scary sometimes, and so things like that. What happened to me recently was I was diagnosed with a mass in my abdomen, and of course that is anxiety provoking. Health, that doesn't mean that it was cancer and I was going to die in 2 months, but that's when my OCD told me. So it was rooted in some semblance of reality. There was something there, something was found, but I didn't have a lot of facts around it. And after some tests, they were able to get some information, but it was still kind of vague. So of course my OCD and anxiety started just trying to convince me that it was all of these horrific things, until I got some additional answers down the road. I still don't have any type of certainty. They're not able to biopsy it or anything. So I'm getting a repeat scan in December, but they feel confident that it's benign and there's nothing serious. But the point is that that specific anxiety is rooted in something that is actually real. It's actually happened. There is something there, but it doesn't always mean that it's the worst case scenario. So, so I wouldn't try to suss out whether health anxiety and OCD are the same or different. They can also cross over in a general anxiety disorder. I generally worry about said disorder disease. What if something bad happens to me? I don't have specifics around it, but and so forth. But the point is if you are, when you say a doctor's treatment, if you're engaging in compulsions that are interfering with your life, if you're visiting the doctor every time you have a symptom of something, if you are stressing because you have a cold, but it's something you're afraid of something more, those are opportunities that you'll probably want to connect with a clinician to discuss because it's interfering with your life. I think it's completely normal in the case of somebody finding a mass in my stomach for me to be afraid it's cancer or be afraid it's something that's going to kill me. I think that's totally normal. But I also know that, me going beyond what the facts are starts to get into the OCD health anxiety universe. And that's where I have to be mindful to just stick with the facts. This is what I know. This is what the doctors are telling me. I have to trust that until I have more information. So a specific example is sometimes my mind will wander about this mass. I got an MRI after 3 months and it hadn't changed. And it was showing some signs of being benign and not heading in the direction of malignant. And so the oncologist said, we don't need to test it again in 3 months. Let's wait 6 months this time and see if it's changed. And then if it's the same at that point, I don't think there was anything else to do and we're done. So I'm in month 3 of the 6 months. And of course my brain wanders too. Am I missing something? Has it changed? Oh my God. What if maybe I should go get it checked right now because I'll catch it now. I mean, it's having all those thoughts, but part of the treatment and the skills is for me to just sit with those thoughts and be like, okay, but the facts are, I went to the doctor, I did the things, I did the test, this is what they said, everybody felt confident about that, this is in my best interest, so this is what I'm going to do. And I know me, and I can't be hyper vigilant about medical stuff because I'll go down, because of my history with health anxiety, I will go down a significant rabbit hole, and I'm not interested in doing that. I would much rather live in accordance with, there's always a level of uncertainty, and I'm going to live into that versus trying to get certainty around something that I can't get certainty over anyway. So that was a very long-winded answer. It's been a long day, but hopefully that gave you some insight. And if you're even more confused, I understand that too, and feel free to ask for additional insight. Yeah, Cash, I get you. Diverticulitis and struggle determining what is anxiety from mind and stomach. Stomach is tough because, I mean, like, I have anxiety and get really nauseous. It's always manifest, like, the stomach and mind is obviously very tied together. That's why a lot of stressed out people like myself take things to help with acid reflux and all the things. What I don't think we can do is try to constantly suss it out, tweeze it out. I think that we really have to embrace what we know about whatever it is and what we know about our OCD and anxiety, and try to keep those separate. So, what do we know about diverticulitis? What do we know of the symptoms and so forth? I'm sure that anxiety and, impact it just like it would anything. But I also think that we have to just, at some point, just let it go, and it is what it is. Maybe it is OCD, maybe it is the actual disease itself, and be okay with that and do the best we can. All right, I haven't been reading the thread. I just tuned into Love Lana saying, I actually do think my hips, butt, and legs look like a frog's. And then I think Cash is flirting, because followed by tree frogs are cute. So I'd be down for a community conversations romance. That would be very exciting. So just keep us updated. Beth said, I don't look like that picture at all. I don't get it. I'm sure they have the technology, but it's non-existent with the DMV. Turns out, Beth, that you could have used any picture. You didn't even need to go to get your picture taken. Oh, the irony. Yeah, how many times did I go to the ER thinking I was having a heart attack? I mean, so it's so funny because if you actually think of, especially with health anxiety, and this will probably be triggering, but if you really think about like what we have control over, it's very little. I was laughing because when I went to the doctor, when I went to the doctor to get the results from the MRI about the mass, and he's like, "Look, I think this is benign." For a few minutes, I felt this incredible relief, like, "Oh my God, this is awesome. I'm going to live forever." But then my mind immediately went to, or you can have an aneurysm in your leg that works its way up to your lungs. And, it's like, who knows, right? Who knows? And so hence the reason that like we could become all consumed. And I know lots of people who are, and I was, about trying to figure it out. I get advertisements all the time for those MRIs that do your whole body. We have no control over what's going to happen. And just because we have certainty in a moment doesn't mean we have certainty in the next moment. And just because the MRI comes out clean doesn't mean that your heart isn't going. I mean, and that's why our OCD will just loop in and get wrapped up into it and just keep driving us absolutely nuts. So it's so important for those of us that have OCD, health anxiety, to really not get wrapped into that loop, because it will drive us absolutely crazy. And I told this story last time I was here because I just broken my foot, which still hurts, still waiting for it to get better. It's a little better. But I told a story where when I fell down the stairs, I wasn't sure if I hit my head. And if those of you who know me know that was a big fear of mine when I was really struggling with OCD. And here I actually fell down the stairs. I actually broke my foot. I actually landed on my back and was on the floor. Did I not remember? And when I went to the ER for my foot and they asked me if I wanted a CAT scan and I turned it down, that was me not getting wrapped up into the OCD. That was me going, the doctor's saying I don't have signs of a brain bleed. And while a CT scan would give me certainty, that was my literal compulsion when I was really sick, was to get multiple CT scans to make sure that my brain was okay. And I would rather wake up in the middle of the night and deal with a brain bleed and go to the hospital than go down the OCD rabbit hole, because that will easily take my life long before the brain bleed will. So it just wasn't an option. And was it scary? Sure. Did I want certainty about it? Absolutely. But I have more certainty that OCD will steal my life long before the fears will. And so I'm willing to take that risk. And I hope you are too. What's up, Matt Bannister in the house? Beth Carducci, I was scared of getting HIV in the 80s, but it didn't keep me from going out and doing anything like I am afraid of getting COVID, long COVID. Yep. I was dating a girl and I was dating a girl in high school. I don't know, dating, whatever. And we were making out and she had an open hangnail on her finger. And she did something, I don't know. She put her finger in my mouth or something weird. I'm keeping it G-rated, but that's not, well, whatever. Anyway, so I was convinced that I had contracted, at the time we weren't specific. I just said AIDS, but I convinced I contracted HIV from her, even though she didn't have it. And I knew how you could actually get it. And I remember calling the doctor and saying in a panic, the next day, I think I contracted HIV, and he was deadly serious with me. Okay, Ethan, it's okay. Calm down. I want to ask you some questions. Are you sexually active? And at the time I was a virgin, and I said, no. And he goes, okay. Did you engage in oral sex or any other type of, no. Did you share, I won't turn you in. Did you share any type of needles, drugs, anything like that? No. So then he's like, well, what happened? And I said, well, the girl that I'm dating had a hangnail, and I think it might have been bleeding, and she put her finger in my mouth, and he hung up on me. I was like, hello? It was... And then and you guys know this for certain, that like when you're paying attention to something specific, you see signs of it everywhere. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? So like when you're kind of stuck on something, like I remember when I was worrying about that, like I started hearing advertisements on the radio and noticing all the billboards, and I thought they were all signs. Like the universe was telling me this is what you have. It's like when you're car shopping and you look for a specific car and you see it everywhere, whatever you're paying attention to. And then the universe is trying to tell you. So yeah. Deirdre, no, Fran is unfortunately, he's no longer with the IOCDF. He was amazing, and we miss him dearly, and he's moved on to some greater things. But he'll always be a dear friend. And yes, Eric is around. He always won trivia, and we should do a trivia soon. What about fear of heights? I noticed my OCD focuses on what if I climb a water tower, for example, like I saw in the movie Aquamarine. So I mean, there's phobias. And then there's OCD. So, I notice my OCD focuses on what if I climb a water tower. So are you afraid that you're accidentally going to climb a water tower versus, because I didn't see the movie Aquamarine, so I'm not sure what that relates to. But you have phobias and fears. Those are not OCD. And you treat those with prolonged exposure. So if you have a fear of spiders, we're going to expose you to spiders to eventually just eliminate, same with flying and things like that. OCD is a bit different, and that's where the response prevention piece comes in. So that's why just exposures don't work for OCD. So for heights, we would do prolonged exposures. But if it's specific to, if you have what if thoughts about heights, like I remember I would have intrusive thoughts about like when I went to the mall, and it was one of the open atrium malls, and I'd be on like the 3rd floor, and I'd start to feel like, what if I jump over this? And while it wasn't like completely panic inducing, I would get, I remember holding my little cousin as a 6-month-old, and we were in a mall, and I was like, what if I just throw him over the balcony? Like, oh my God, I can feel my muscles. Am I a bad person? Like, that's definitely OCD. So I don't know if that helps determine what is what. I've been having trouble with words today, so we'll do the best I can. Gail, Ethan, may I ask a personal question? Are you taking meds for OCD? You may, Gail. The answer is yes. I've been on medication since I was 14. They've changed multiple times throughout the years. I don't like to say specifically what meds I'm on because all the medications that are currently out for OCD are very specific to the individual, and one person has a great experience, the next person has a terrible experience, and everything in between. So, it's not really important. And so, I've been on the medications I've been on the same OCD medication since 2011 or 2010, since I got better. And I honestly, I'm not sure exactly what the meds are doing or not doing, to be honest with you. I know that, the most effective treatment is a combination of both. But with that being said, I think the methodology around meds is very different than it used to be. And again, I don't like to talk about meds a ton because I'm not a psychiatrist. But I will say that, when I was growing up, or at least in my teens and 20s, it was this belief that when you get on meds, you weren't going to get off meds. I think now a lot of the clinicians and a lot of the brilliant clinicians that I know really utilize meds as a tool to engage in treatment really effectively. And I like that approach. I really like this idea that if you're struggling in treatment, if you're struggling engaging in an ERP, if it's too scary, if you're emotionally dysregulated, whatever you're engaging in, sometimes it can lower the shield and open a window so treatment can get in there. I really like that. And then, potentially getting off after you've stabilized and you feel that your treatment's going really, really well. Research shows that meds maybe account for 20 to 30% improvement, and behavioral therapy accounts for 70 to 80% improvement with OCD, but everybody's completely different. One thing I will tell you about meds is, you should not feel stigma. You should not feel embarrassed if you're on them, if you have to get on them, if you're told you should be on them but don't want to take them. It's no different than taking medication for any other disorder or disease. If you were prescribed something for cancer or for diabetes, you would take them. And so we definitely want to think of OCD in the same vein. What is the purpose of de-Xing illness anxiety separate from OCD, and why isn't it in the OCD section of DSM? That's a great question. I honestly don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the purpose of. It used to be, at least the way it was talked to me, the same. And even as far as recently today, when I had my therapy session, they refer to health anxiety separately, though. It's a good question. I genuinely don't know. If there's a clinician on the thread, there's most questions I do know, but you definitely caught me on that one. Stumped me. That was the word I was looking for. Stumped me on that one. I will say, though, that the treatment's the same. So, whether it's health anxiety or OCD, I'm doing the same stuff regardless. So, whatever. But it's a good question. I truly don't know. But if somebody has the answer for CJ, please feel free, and I will get you the answer. I'll know next time for sure. I'll look into it. And thank you, Matt. My foot is better. So the question, which is, if I can't afford treatment for OCD right now, what can I do? And that is a great question, because unfortunately OCD treatment is expensive and not always accessible for many folks, and we hate that. We really do. And we work really hard over here to at the IOCDF to continue to work to make treatment affordable, effective, and all of those things. So a few things. From an insurance perspective, sometimes, obviously, there's super bills and things that you can get to turn into your insurance if you have health insurance, if you're in the States, and it's not. You can also do single case agreements, and where a clinician will advocate for you for insurance to cover your specific treatment. And you can advocate as well for your insurance company to cover it. So not that it's right, and anybody who's struggling and suffering should have to go through that, but there are ways to do that. With that being said, if you can't afford treatment, probably the next best thing, and if insurance won't cover it, the next best thing is workbooks. There's some amazing workbooks. There's some phenomenal online courses that are really, really good. If you go to the IOCDF website, they have resources and all kinds of things. Videos are really good. So there's a lot of ways to access the material and the content, whether they're books, workbooks, videos. And while it's not, while it's harder to do by yourself, it is absolutely possible. And so I would look into, and if you'd like, you can definitely email the IOCDF, and you literally just say, I can't afford treatment, but if you can provide some other resources for me in regards to being able to support myself, there's definitely a number of places that we can direct you to, and I'm happy as well to provide those if helpful. So yeah. Yeah. I went from, when I had really severe health anxiety, I wanted to go all the time. When I got better, I never wanted to go. I kind of flipped. And that's not good too. Life is a balance. And it's not about, and that's avoiding. And avoiding is a compulsion. So at the end of the day, and it's not uncommon at all, but at the end of the day, you should abide by what is recommended. You should get a yearly physical. If you have something going on, you should get it checked out if that's in your best interest. So avoiding is a compulsion, whether it's avoiding doctors or avoiding people or avoiding places or whatever it is. And we definitely don't want to do that. We don't want to go to the doctor for everything, and we don't want to not go to the doctor for anything. It's no different than, we want to not, eat everything in sight, but we don't want to eat nothing either. It's all balance. But that is also a compulsion. And so we want to be mindful of that and make sure that we believe that we can handle what comes. And I think being proactive is really important. And of course, there is a very sensitive balance between that. With someone with health anxiety, I many times struggle. Is it something that I should go to the doctor with? Is it something I shouldn't go to the doctor with? You know, my broken foot, it'll be a month tomorrow. It's still in a lot of pain. I can't walk normal on it yet. It's still swollen. It's still bruised. You know, do I go back? I've been twice. He said it takes 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, I'm at 4. What does that mean? You know, and so what I'll generally do is try to get a baseline from somebody that doesn't have OCD around it and say, hey, if you broke your foot, what would you do? And try to gauge it that way. But yeah, you also don't want to avoid going to doctors in the same way that, you know, if you experience anxiety around anything, you don't want to avoid it. So, I hate when the comments adjust. So pause a moment while I scroll back up to find where I just was. Ah, there we are. Okay. Thank you, CJ. Appreciate it. Did you tell the doctor that you have OCD? I did. I usually report that. And a lot of times, so for health anxiety, a lot of times when I'm seeing a doctor or seeing a doctor for the first time or a new doctor, a specialist, let's say, and they prescribe something for me, I will ask them if it's medically necessary. And the reason is a lot of doctors will prescribe stuff, A, because they want to make money, and B, to reassure. And I don't want to be reassured. So in the case of the foot and the head hitting, they literally said to me, there's a series of questions that we ask you. If you get a certain score or higher, then you should get a CAT scan. You did not score that high, so we wouldn't give you one. But if it would make you feel better, we're happy to give you a CAT scan. And at that point, I obviously knew that that was for reassurance purposes, so I declined. I have asked doctors in the past for similar things, are you doing this to reassure me or to make me feel better or lessen the anxiety, or are you doing it because you need to know something? And sometimes they've answered, no, it's to mostly just like relieve your anxiety so you're not worried, in which I decline. Sometimes they'll say, no, this is medically necessary. I need to know what's going on. And sometimes it'll land somewhere in the middle, and then I have to decide for myself. But I will disclose, and I find that's really helpful, especially if it's a doctor that I have a relationship with that may or may not know a lot about OCD, but I will let them know that it's what I have. I'll let them know that I seek reassurance, and I'll let them know that if there's something they need to do or request that I do, to please only do it if it's medically necessary, and don't do it to support my uneasiness, you know, for the most part. And I found that to be really, really helpful, and just being open and honest about it. I was trying to think of an example if there was a situation where I was so anxious. I got a test anyway, but at least not recently. And I find that's very helpful, to that specific question of asking whether or not it's medically necessary, and going from there. If you have health anxiety and you really want to get tests to find out certainty and all of those things. So I will tell you something I'm not good at is waiting for test results. I am awful. And you know, it was a lot worse when you didn't have a portal and you wouldn't get your results before. I would, you know, the next day I'd call a bunch, being like, and I'd make up excuses and yeah, all kinds of things to try to get the results quickly. Let's see. Cash, I don't recommend that. I don't want to know what people find inside you. Not interested. Anything is possible in the imagination, OCD. That is right, which is why OCD treatment works, because the symptoms themselves, it's all OCD. It's all about embracing uncertainty, or the inability to live with uncertainty, to live with doubt, to live with distress. And because, you know, the OCD and the imagination come up with whatever it wants, when you boil it all down, you know, it all kind of equals the same thing, which is, I'm scared of X. I don't want to feel X. I don't want to experience this. I want it to go away. And so I'm going to do this other thing. And there's some key things that work for every type of OCD. Now, I'm not saying that one symptom has more or less stigma than the other. I'm not saying that the experiences are the same. I'm not saying, I personally believe that certain symptomatology of OCD come with more public stigma than others, and are a little bit more taboo or harder to deal with or more complex to treat in some ways. So I definitely don't want to sit here and say we're all the same, but I will say that OCD is OCD is OCD, and that's the power of the treatment and the therapy. Is it doesn't matter what kind of OCD you have, you can be effectively treated and supported. And so, it's plug and play for that matter. And I think that's really important to know, because I think there's a lot of hope in that. You're allowed to ask as many questions as you want. I hope I'm not spamming you're not spamming the chat. I developed the fear of looking at the sun and oh my gosh, damaging my eyes. So now I fear being outside, especially when the sun is low early morning. I forgot how normal people act outdoors when it's sunny. I would appreciate some help on how to address this. I had some ERP sessions with psychiatrists and honestly made things worse. He made me look at buildings that were in the same direction as the sun. And now after 7 months, I think you cut off. Let's see if you cut back. I can only see so much on my end. But so that makes a lot of sense. I had a similar fear when I was a kid. And so, if you're not doing the response prevention piece, so I'm not sure, there could be a number of reasons why the exposures that you were doing were or weren't working. I think that, let's see here. When we say I forget how people act outdoors, I think that that's the OCD. And the reason being is we inherently know what to do in situations like that. You do know how to go outside, where to look, where to not look. But OCD is the doubting disorder, and it makes us feel like we don't know something that we did know how to do. And it's really a mind F, if you will, and really it makes me uncomfortable because I've experienced similar, and I'm sure a lot of people have experienced similar with that. What you need to do is go outside in the times of day that you're uncomfortable. And of course, doing that without support is more challenging, but, start small. You don't necessarily need to look in the direction, but, can you just go outside and maybe, look in the direction of a rising or setting sun, but look at the ground, right? And do that for a little while. And then, move to something a little bit higher and a little bit higher. Nobody should ask you to stare at the sun. So that is a no-go. But I think if an exposure isn't working like that, generally we're what's called white knuckling it, which is I'm just going to kind of grit my teeth and do this thing and hope that it doesn't happen, versus really embracing this idea that I'm going to look in this direction and the sun could damage my eyes, and I'm willing to live with that possibility, even though it scares the crap out of me. And that's sort of what it takes. That's sort of the essence of ERP, is being willing for the fear to happen and truly surrendering that fact, knowing that it most likely won't, and it is your OCD. And so, for instance, I will tell you that I'm not sure when to go to the ER or not. Is it an emergency or is it not an emergency? And how do I know? But the interesting thing is, when I've been to the ER, there's been no doubt in my mind I've needed to go. So there are times when I'm sick or there's something going on, and I will say, should I go? Do I need to go? I'm not sure. Is this, I start to mull it over and nothing is really that clear. And it's in those cases I can often identify that it's related to OCD or health anxiety. When I broke my ankle, when I was spitting up blood, when I couldn't stand up because my vertigo was so severe, I didn't think twice. I knew for a fact that's where I needed to go. And I think we need to get back to trusting that, because OCD will create so much doubt that we don't trust ourselves in believing that we can or can't. I want you to start to trust again that you can go outside during times of day, just like you have for the most of your life. And it may seem really, really scary, and it may seem anxiety provoking and intense, but I want you to start to trust that you know what you're doing. You know how to do it, no matter what the OCD says. You can live your life in accordance with your values. You can go out to, go out during a beautiful time of day and do your thing. And it doesn't mean that you're going to go outside tomorrow and watch the sunset. It simply means that you can take baby steps and trust that you know when you're looking directly at the sun for a long period of time and when you're not. And the what if I do, and when that what if starts to creep in, that's that OCD and really becoming attuned to identifying when that is and isn't happening. Just rereading your comment one more time to make sure I didn't. Yeah. So the last thing, and I addressed it, but the last thing I would say is I would challenge you saying that I forgot. I think that the OCD creates enough doubt that it makes you feel like you don't know what to do. It's the same thing as hearing somebody say something that gives you certainty, but then asking them to say it again. Like, wait, can you repeat that? I don't remember what you said. Well, you do remember what you said. The OCD is just making you doubt what they said, and you want to hear it again to get that certainty back, and so forth and so on. Yes, Cash, OCD does know our minds for sure. Isastasia, happy birthday. Absolutely, you should celebrate. And I'm sorry it's been a rough year, but I appreciate you showing up every time we're having a live stream. I want to hear everything that you did for your birthday. So happy birthday from the IOCDF and the Community Conversations crew. I hope you have a beautiful day tomorrow. Whatever may pop up, whatever may happen, I think tomorrow is a good day to celebrate your birthday. Tatum writes, my parents were all about being prepared in case the worst happens, but I'm not like that. I'm aware that I'm not prepared for everything that is going to come in the future. That's great. My parents prepared for everything, and I'm just like that. I think that's awesome. I mean, is that a good thing for you or a bad thing, Tatum? I'm curious. I mean, I think that the ability to handle something and being prepared are two different things. And I think that we have this concept that being prepared for something means that we expect it. Maybe it bothers us a little less. Maybe not. This is just my opinion. Maybe it bothers us a little less, and we'll handle it beautifully. I really embrace this idea of expecting to handle something messy, and if I handle it not messy, and then that's just a bonus. And I try to embrace life as that, meaning, I don't know what's going to come in the future. I don't know what bridges I'm going to have to cross, but the first thing I'm going to do, or at least try to live my life this way, and I'm not always successful, and I work toward this a lot, which is I don't know what's coming, but I'm going to try and be as present as possible and live the life that I have the best I can, if and until something comes up. It's in that moment that I will believe that I can handle that. Whatever that is, whatever bridge I'm required to cross, it doesn't mean that I will handle it beautifully, perfectly, succinctly, sexily. It simply means that whatever it is, I will be able to get through it. And I'm okay with that. And it could be something that maybe I am prepared for. Maybe I have skills and tools for. It could be something that I've never experienced in my entire life. But I have to believe that in those moments, I will be able to navigate it, even if it's really, really, really hard. And I think that's the freedom that comes with embracing uncertainty, is the belief that I may not know what's going to happen. I don't know what's coming. And yes, anything and everything can possibly happen. But I'm going to trust that I'm going to live my life and trust that I can handle it when it happens, and I'll figure it out. And I have a support system, and I have people that care about me and love me and will help me navigate that. that's really the freedom, where the freedom from OCD happens, is that belief and that ability. And that's what allows you to sort of surrender to the big fears, the big what ifs, you know, understanding that it's most likely OCD. It probably won't happen, but if it does, I'll navigate it. And there's a lot of freedom in that. There's a lot of sense of control when there's no control at all. The more we try to control, the more out of control we feel. The more we try not to control, the more in control we feel. So if I don't try to control the outcome or the situation and simply move forward, embracing the idea that whatever comes, I will be able to handle it, then I don't need to seek control over anything, but because I just know simply that when it gets there, I'll do my best to manage it. And so there's a lot of comfort in that, and a lot of feelings of control, because I'm not trying to control. It's sort of the grand paradox, if you will. Katie tuned back in and she's confused. Welcome to my entire hour. Katie, Zach is too. Now I'm going to wonder what I was talking about, but that's all right. We'll just roll with it. Everybody's wishing Isostasia a happy birthday. Happy early birthday. Oh, yesterday. Oh, that's right, Robert. I forgot that your birthday is on our anniversary. Happy birthday, Robert. Hope you had a wonderful, wonderful day. How do you cope with righteous anger? I'm in a severe episode right now, basically alone and struggling. It feels inescapable and constantly re-triggering. I think that, well, I'm sorry you're going through that, Zach. I think that self-compassion is number one. Number two is allowing yourself to feel anger and frustration and all of the feelings that come with what you are feeling. I want you to know that do not give up hope. Do not give up the ability to advocate for yourself and what you may need in this moment. I want you to remember where you've come from at times, when you've had healthy days, weeks, months, when you've been successful. I think that we all go through waxes and wanes of OCD, and I know severe OCD episodes can be really terrifying and scary, but I want you to try to experience the feelings for what they are. Try and notice the thoughts, but not let them own you. And I mean, I don't pretend to know what you're going through. I definitely understand what it was like for me, where I was constantly being re-triggered and always at a 10, and it's intense and exhausting and scary. And so, what are things that you can do for you to slow down the spiral? Have you been doing some self-care things? I mean, warm showers, hot showers really work for me. Walks help me ground. Going outside and just noticing things, changing your environment. Other people you can talk to, friends you can call, family you can call, not specifically about the OCD, but is there things that have helped in the past that you can engage in again, whether that's a workbook, an account that you follow, a clinician that you've worked with. But the feelings are valid. They're always valid. And that goes for everybody. Everybody's feelings are so valid in regards to this. But we don't want our feelings to define who we are. So I think letting ourselves experience the feelings, not judge, shame ourselves for them, and then try to move forward is a good place to start. But I'm sorry you're struggling, Zach. Lots of happy birthday wishes to Robert and Isostasia. I agree. It was the late 90s. It was the early 90s. Yeah, I don't think he knew a lot. Although I don't think I knew a lot either. So, and it looks like I'm going to be married to Cash shortly, Katie. So there you go. Katie wrote, when we think about the quote from Viktor Frankl, that between stimulus and response, there's a space. I think medication sometimes makes that space a little bigger so we can use our tools. Exactly. Okay, now I know where we are. Oh, I'm way behind. I am so sorry. and we've got 1 minute. If you want to hang out with me a second, I'll go a little bit over. Is that cool? And see if I can get to some of these questions. I'll stop at 8 o'clock. So if you ask questions after now, it's over. Let me see if I can get to a few quick. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. So if you're looking for self-help resources, I recommend Kim Quinlan's CBT School, Reed Wilson's Anxiety Resources, Marissa Maz's ACT Workbook for OCD, Annabelle Hagen's Imperfectly Good. If anybody wants to screen cap that, John Grayson's book on freedom from OCD is really, really good. Kim Quinlan also has a self-compassion workbook for OCD, which Zach might be really good for you. So I'll leave that up if you all want to screen cap that if you didn't see it in the comments. And Isostasia, yes, there are a ton of books that are amazing and real for self-help. A book was my first real step out of the hellhole before I could afford therapy. That's awesome, and that's hopefully inspiring for people to hear. Jen, the same. I couldn't afford therapy, nor did I want to, but I managed my OCD through workbooks, the IOCDF, these live videos, and many other resources. I've been able to truly change my life. It's possible. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jen. I appreciate that. Let's see. How to do an exposure while being tired? I'm always afraid of about how long the discomfort will last. So sometimes I just choose to compulse. I think that's very common, Gerda. And I think engaging in exposures is tiring, and being tired is a very common, a very common experience and feeling when you're navigating OCD. It's exhausting. Doing exposures is exhausting. And I think that to a certain extent, we have to embrace that fact that the process of getting OCD into a managing phase, managing OCD successfully, can be very tiring. And we have to be okay with that, because that's just a reality of the process. That doesn't mean that we're not allowed to sleep, take naps, do self-care, and all of the above. But we can't do our exposures or not do our exposures based on how we feel. Feelings are really, really your greatest enemy, I think. Feelings oftentimes dictate to us what we should be doing, how we should act, what's real, what isn't real. If the thought is real, it must be real because I feel it. I think feelings in regards to OCD are the great illusionist, and they do us a big disservice. So in regards to OCD, while your feelings are valid, as I told Zach, it's important to honor them and accept them for what they are and notice them, but not let them dictate what you should be doing or not doing. And if you're afraid, which is a feeling of the discomfort lasting a long time, which is very, very common. I don't want to trigger myself. I don't want to get triggered. If I just avoid or do whatever it is I do, I don't have to deal with that. That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, look, if compulsions didn't work, we wouldn't be doing them, right? But they work. The problem is, though, that they don't work for long, and they make us worse, and they make our OCD work. So, as far as the tired piece, understandable, but know that it is not forever, and do it tired. It's okay. Self-care is important, but if you're tired and you need to be doing exposures in that time, do them tired. And if you don't do them perfectly, that's okay. As far as being afraid of how long the discomfort will last, none of us want to be triggered or experience anxiety. It's not particularly fun, but just keep in mind that the more times you compulse, the worse the OCD gets, the bigger the monster gets, more anxiety you'll feel. Ultimately, we have to think of these exposures as short-term pain, long-term gain, right? So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to feel really icky for a while right now, but I'd rather feel icky today and maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, and maybe for the next week, in order to have a lot of freedom for the rest of my life, right? And so that's the goal for anyone that's actively engaging in ERP treatment or whatever treatment you're engaging in for OCD is, and also look at the discomfort and look at the anxiety as you fighting. OCD is yelling at you because you're challenging it. So, that can be a win. Don't give in. Don't compulse. Don't make it happy. Making it happy means you're going the wrong direction. Making it pissed and angry means you're going the right direction. So, yeah, my 2 cents on those. Thanks for the question. Beth Carducci, I keep thinking that I would go off the deep end if I got COVID, but both you and Dr. McGrath say the same thing. You think you wouldn't be able to handle it. Listen, if you'd have asked me 5 years ago if a doctor had found, my biggest fear was a brain tumor, and my other biggest fear was it was going to be found in like some routine exam. And although it wasn't in my brain, they found a tumor in my stomach during an exam that wasn't about my stomach. If you told me that even last year, I would have told you that it put me in bed and I'd be unable to function, and I would have entered a severe depression. And the opposite happened. I knew that I had two choices, and I could either choose to run and hide and just go deep into the rabbit hole of anxiety and OCD. And I recognized in that moment that if anything was going to cause a relapse for me, it was going to be this situation, because it was my biggest fear. And I personally wasn't willing to lose everything that I've worked for, be it relationship, work, jobs, friends, you name it. So that isn't to say that I didn't have hard days. That isn't to say that I didn't cry. And that isn't to say that I didn't Google. But that is to say that if I look at the 3 months from when I was told I needed an MRI, and I had to wait those 3 months to get the MRI, not knowing what I had, what was going on. They couldn't biopsy it. I had way more good days than bad, which, again, if you'd asked me last year, I would have said that will never happen. The alternative was to relapse, because that's what would have happened. I'm fairly confident, and I just wasn't willing to do that. And I'm grateful that I was able to have the insight to acknowledge that that's probably what would have happened. And so, absolutely accurate. You don't know until you get there, and you may surprise yourself. You probably will. Our strength is pretty incredible as a group, as individuals with OCD. Our inner strength is something special. So keep that in mind. Oh, Cash left. Bye, Cash at 7:49. Sorry. All right, just scrolling down. I'm gonna. That's good to know. When I developed light sensitivity, before that I used to be an outdoor person. And I would ask myself, like, I don't know too much about light sensitivity, if it relates to migraines or just vision in general, or makes you feel uncomfortable. But, you know, similar to COVID, right? When COVID came out, the CDC and doctors said, here's what you can do and here's what you shouldn't do. And even though it changed every 10 minutes, the only thing we could do is follow the advice until it changed, it became something else. That's all we could do. Otherwise, we would just go in a bubble. And, so, although I don't know a lot about light sensitivity and how it affects you, what do you know and what you don't? What do you know and what do you not know about it? What are you supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do? And not as it relates to your OCD or fear of staring at the sun and damaging your eyes. That is not light sensitivity. And I would look at the two things as completely separate, right? And that will give you a foundation of at least the guide that you should follow, because, light sensitivity may prevent the level of outdoorness that you were living before. But, the fear of looking at the sun or staring at the sun should not prevent you from going outside and living your life. And so then what is the balance, right? Matt Bannister always comes with the good stuff. OCD can be overcome. OCD doesn't define who we are, and everyone has the power within to navigate their journey of recovery and reaching towards our values, having a why, learning knowledge from resources, mindfulness, self-compassion, and being supported by this amazing community. You can absolutely break free from the shackles from OCD and find freedom. Matt makes us all feel better. I like Matt. That's right. CJ wrote no way you can prepare for everything. Have to understand and accept that there is uncertainty. 1000%. And yes, of course, for my friends that are of the Jewish tradition, a very happy Rosh Hashanah to you all, and a happy New Year. Thank you, Isis Asia. We're closing in on comments from 8 o'clock. Just wanted to see if I didn't miss any questions. All right. Thank you all for your people literally stopped commenting at 8 o'clock. I'm done. He said he's not answering. He's not talking. All right, then. Oh, and also Matt Bannister recommends Shannon Shai's book, Turning Points 2. Shannon's a great advocate and as well as a peer support specialist. So you can check out Shannon's book as well. Let me just go over some quick closing announcements. So I'll be back October 22nd. Put it in your calendars. I will be there. I hope you are too. Tomorrow is Ask the Experts. I think it will just be Dr. Liz. So definitely tune in there if you want to ask some experts some questions. The IOCDF is donor supported, nonprofit, so please consider making a donation to the IOCDF at iocdf.org/donate. Please make sure you subscribe and follow to all our social media channels and platforms so you're notified when we go live, and you can tune in and say hi and ask questions and support. As always, I want to thank all of you for being amazing support to not only everyone in this live stream, but to me as well. You constantly encourage me. To fight. You hold me accountable, and I really, really appreciate all of you. And I hope that you get as much from this as I do. I really hope you do. I see one question, 804. We'll let it through. Why do I usually find exposures easier at night? Could this just be placebo? So I usually did better at night. I don't know that it was in relation to exposures, mostly because when I was struggling before I found the right treatment, it was more just I did better at night. And at least that was because I didn't have responsibilities. My responsibilities for the day were over. I didn't feel like I was committed to anything. So I didn't feel the pressure. And so I found nights in general were easier. As far as how they relate to specific exposures, I don't know if anybody else feels that nights are easier for them. When I was in treatment, for me, it didn't matter what time of day it was. Exposures I found really difficult and hard to engage in. I don't know. Maybe you are not as on guard because you're tired, end of day. Maybe it could just be placebo. Yeah, but take it, run with it, do the exposures at night. So so yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if anybody else relates or wants to weigh in, but thank you, Jack, for the question. Appreciate it. All right. So with all of that being said, obviously, if you have questions, comments, concerns, you can always visit the IOCDF at iocdf.org. We're not going to dive into that. And also, if you're looking for resources or provider, you can always visit iocdf.org/find-help. With all of that, I want to wish Robert a happy birthday yesterday and Isastasia a big happy birthday tomorrow. I want to celebrate Beth Carducci going out and getting her driver's license, which is freaking awesome. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. Power of community, baby. It's pretty special, and I think y'all are awesome. For all of you that are struggling and navigating, I'm so sorry you're having a hard time. Continue to look through resources. Don't give up hope. As you've seen and heard tonight, so many folks got better. Ideally, you can work with a therapist, but it's not impossible to get better and on your own through workbooks, resources, things like that. With all that being said, see, there you go. We were absolutely with you. We love you, Beth. So with all that, have a beautiful rest of your evening. Stay safe, stay vigilant, feel the feels, don't let OCD off the hook. And I'll see you on the 22nd. Tune in to Ask the Experts tomorrow. Have a great rest of your week. I will talk to you later. Much love, everyone. And goodbye.